What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Let's dive right into our first news. Paddy Pimblett opened up this week about his fight with Chandler and didn't hold back when describing what it was like sharing the cage with him. Paddy made it clear that on a personal level, he actually likes Chandler and thinks he's a genuinely nice guy outside the octagon. However, once the cage door closes, Paddy believes Chandler turns into a completely different person. According to Paddy, Chandler has a long-standing reputation for bending the rules during fights. He pointed out how often Chandler throws punches to the back of the head, something that many fans and fighters have noticed over the years. Paddy also mentioned incidents where Chandler has put his fingers in opponents' mouths, calling it a dirty tactic that has shown up in multiple fights. He brought up the moment with Dustin Poirier, where Chandler tried the same move and ended up getting bitten because of it. Paddy didn't stop there. He also accused Chandler of eye pokes and highlighted what he described as one of the most blatant low blows he has ever experienced. Paddy explained that as he went to throw a kick, Chandler fired straight up the middle and caught him clean, leaving no doubt in his mind that it was intentional. He said it felt like Chandler was trying to slow him down and wear him out by any means necessary. Despite all of this, Paddy kept his tone balanced. He acknowledged that Chandler is respected and friendly outside the cage, but insisted that inside it, the tactics crossed the line. Paddy ultimately brushed it off, saying he wasn't surprised and that he expected it, reminding everyone that he still got the finish in the third round and proved his point in the end. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to support the channel. Moving on to another news, Arman addressed the criticism surrounding his decision to pull out of his title fight against Islam Makhachev last year while appearing on the One Night with Steiny podcast. During the conversation, Steiny openly told Arman that many people believed the injury was fake and suggested that he may have been afraid of Islam. Steiny admitted that from the outside, it looked like Arman couldn't make weight and used the injury as an excuse, even saying directly that it appeared Arman was scared. Arman immediately pushed back on that idea and made it clear he completely disagreed with that narrative. He reminded everyone that he fought Islam on short notice when he was just 22 years old, stepping in against a far more experienced opponent who already had several UFC fights and was a teammate of Khabib. Arman explained that he was called only 2 or 3 weeks before that fight, still showed up, made weight, and went to war in what many considered a very close fight. He questioned how anyone could call him afraid when he had spent 6 or 7 years preparing mentally and physically for a matchup like that. Arman pointed out that by the time the title fight was scheduled, he already had around 10 or 11 fights in the UFC, building experience and confidence along the way. From his perspective, fear simply didn't make sense given his history. Arman also said that even if he had gone into that fight and lost, he was confident he would have delivered a great performance. He explained that fighting Islam would have allowed him to show his skills on the biggest stage, make good money, and grow his name even more in the sport. For Arman, the idea that he would walk away out of fear doesn't add up, and he firmly believes his actions throughout his career prove that he's never been afraid of challenges at the highest level. Moving on to another news, Demetrious Johnson shared his prediction for the UFC 324 matchup between Umar Nurmagomedov and Deiveson Figueiredo, and he's leaning toward Umar getting the win. Demetrious explained that in his view, the fight is likely to come down to grappling exchanges rather than prolonged striking. He believes Umar will be able to secure takedowns and turn the contest into a battle on the mat. He acknowledged that Figgy is no slouch on the ground, pointing out that he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and has plenty of experience in high-level fights. Demetrious also referenced Figgy's recent bout with Corey Sandhagen, where things went wrong after he injured his knee in a 50-50 position, showing how quickly fights can change during grappling exchanges. When it came time to make a final pick, Demetrious said he would go with Umar. He praised the intensity and discipline of Umar's training style, noting that fighters from that camp train incredibly hard. According to Demetrious, the only times those fighters tend to lose are either when they face someone clearly better or when they gas out from pushing themselves too hard in training. Moving on to another news, there's a serious update on Kayla Harrison and her health situation that forced her out of the planned fight with Amanda Nunes. Last week, it was revealed that Kayla needed neck surgery, a decision that immediately ruled her out of competition. According to her manager, Ali Abdulaziz, this was not a minor issue, and delaying treatment could have had life-changing consequences. Ali explained that if the injury had been left untreated, Kayla could have ended up paralyzed. He shared that this problem has actually been affecting her for a very long time, saying Kayla has not been anywhere near 100% for the past 3 years. Dating back to her PFL days, she was dealing with severe issues, including being unable to properly lift her arm. Despite trying everything possible, nothing seemed to work. Kayla reportedly went through injections, medication, and anti-inflammatory treatments in an attempt to manage the pain and keep fighting. Unfortunately, none of those options solved the underlying problem. Eventually, the UFC stepped in and flew her to New York for further evaluation. Once examined, the doctor made it clear that surgery was needed immediately. The warning was direct and serious, saying that without surgery, the risk of paralysis was very real. The positive news is that right after the procedure, Kayla's pain was gone, offering hope for a healthy recovery and a return to competition down the line. Moving on to another news. Paddy Pimblett has shut down any talk of an immediate fight with Ilia, despite recent comments suggesting a return in April or June. Paddy made it clear that even if everything lines up, and especially if he beats Justin Gaethje this weekend, an April comeback is completely off the table. Speaking openly, Paddy said there is no chance he's stepping back into the octagon that soon. According to Paddy, Ilia is not getting him back in April under any circumstances. He explained that he was made to wait before, and now it's only fair that Ilia does the same. Paddy stressed that April is simply not happening and dismissed the idea without hesitation. He repeated that he will not be fighting in that month, no matter the situation. Paddy added that he's open to returning later in the year, mentioning June or July as realistic options. From his point of view, a few extra months make sense after a big fight, and he's not willing to rush just to accommodate someone else's timeline. Paddy sounded confident and firm, making it clear that the schedule will move on his terms. Moving on to another news, Max Holloway has made it clear that he's not happy with Ariel Helwani after what he believes was an attempt to stir up unnecessary drama involving the BMF title. The situation started when Jorge Masvidal appeared on Ariel's show, and Ariel brought up Max's recent comments about what the BMF belt represents to him. In that earlier clip, Max explained that the BMF belt personally symbolizes being a true bad guy in the sport, someone who is blessed and stands apart. He said that only a few fighters ever get the chance to fight for that belt, and in his view, it felt like the belt was treated as a laughingstock by people before he won it. According to Max, once he got the belt, everyone suddenly wanted a shot at it, which he found hilarious and fun. Jorge responded to that clip by saying he was somewhat offended, even though he stressed that he respects Max as a fighter. Jorge said Max is one of the best to ever do it, and always shows heart in the cage. At the same time, Jorge suggested that if he or Nate had fought Max for the belt earlier, it wouldn't have been an easy or pretty night for Max either. He questioned the idea of the belt being called a laughingstock, pointing out that the skill level of the fighters involved was always high. Jorge added that he would love to fight Max one day purely based on the stylistic matchup, saying he thinks Max is great, but believes he himself is better. When asked if he took offense to Max's comments, Jorge admitted that maybe he did a little, mainly because he was the first one to compete for the belt. However, he also downplayed the issue, saying Max has held multiple belts and earned the right to speak his mind. Jorge joked that Max once acted like he didn't need the BMF belt, but now that he's won it, it's the one he proudly parades around the most, which he found amusing. After seeing that interview circulate, Max fired back on X and accused Ariel Helwani of trying to instigate drama between him and Jorge. Max clarified that when he said the belt was considered a laughingstock, he meant that people were calling it that, not that he personally believed it. He directly called out Ariel, saying that Ariel himself was one of the people pushing that narrative. Max ended his response by telling Ariel to stop trying to start problems, adding a blunt remark about his age and making it clear he wasn't interested in manufactured beef. Moving on to another news, Dustin Poirier shared his thoughts on the main event of UFC 324 and made it clear where his money would be if he had to pick a side. According to Dustin, he's leaning toward Justin Gaethje to get the job done against Paddy Pimblett, and he even believes the fight ends before the final bell. While he admitted that the matchup is exciting and entertaining, his confidence was firmly behind Justin when it comes to how the fight plays out. Dustin explained that his reasoning comes down to experience and durability. He pointed out that Justin has already been through multiple 25-minute fights and some of the toughest dogfights the division has to offer. In his view, that kind of experience matters a lot when you're dealing with the pressure of a main event. Dustin feels that Paddy is going to struggle to control Justin on the feet and doesn't see an easy path for Paddy to take the fight to the ground. He went on to say that if Paddy can't get Justin down, then he's forced to stand and trade with him. That's where Dustin believes the problems really begin. In order to survive, he thinks Paddy would have to stay extremely disciplined for the full 25 minutes, manage distance perfectly, and carefully pick his shots without getting drawn into a brawl. Dustin made it sound like that's a very difficult task against someone like Justin. From Dustin's perspective, Justin is simply the bigger puncher and the more dangerous striker. He described how Justin is willing to put himself in harm's way just to land one of those fight-changing shots. According to Dustin, it's incredibly hard to avoid that kind of power and pressure for 5 full rounds, especially when Justin keeps marching forward. Dustin ultimately said he sees Justin getting the stoppage. Even though Justin is coming into the fight as the betting underdog, that didn't change Dustin's opinion. He mentioned that he noticed the odds and still felt confident enough to back Justin. When it came to betting, Dustin admitted he doesn't do it all the time, but he's definitely planning to take part for this fight, with Justin winning by stoppage. Moving on to another news, Justin Gaethje opened up about his loss to Max Holloway and admitted that he completely misread the danger going into that fight. Justin explained that he treated the matchup more like a fun, spectacle fight instead of approaching it with his usual ruthless, competitive mindset. That decision ended up costing him, as he was knocked out in the final 10 seconds of the fight, a moment he now describes as a harsh wake-up call. Justin said the biggest mistake he made was failing to truly recognize the threat Max posed. Because of that, he never reached his primal competitive state, the mindset where instinct takes over and survival becomes the only focus. He described that night as genuinely scary, explaining that when he usually goes to that primal place, he doesn't retain memories or details. This time, however, things were different. Justin revealed that he clearly remembers Max's face during the fight, something that had never happened to him before, and that realization alone told him something was wrong. He went on to say that the errors didn't just happen inside the cage. According to Justin, many of the mistakes were made during preparation, with the wrong mentality creeping in long before fight night. He admitted that his approach in training, his mindset, and how he framed the bout in his own head all contributed to the outcome. Instead of treating it like a dangerous war, he viewed it as an entertaining clash, and that lack of seriousness left him exposed. Justin was brutally honest about the result, calling it a huge mistake and taking full responsibility for what happened. Despite the painful ending, he made it clear that the loss hasn't broken him. In fact, it's fueled a desire to make things right. Justin said that's exactly why he wants to fight Max Holloway again one day, believing that with the correct mindset and preparation, the rematch would look very different and allow him to show who he truly is as a competitor. Moving on to another news, Khamzat Chimaev recently found himself on the receiving end of an intense training mishap that left him injured and visibly frustrated. In a recent YouTube video, Georgian MMA personality Vako Gingilia sat down with former bantamweight champ Merab Dvalishvili and brought up a curious moment involving Khamzat and fellow Georgian Roman Doolitza. Vako explained that Guram Kuterlatsa had once shared an interesting story with him, but had refused to make it public. However, Guram eventually passed the story along to Merab, who shared the details during the conversation. Merab recalled the incident vividly, describing a day at Extreme Couture when he, Khamzat, and Roman were all training together. While sparring with someone else, Merab suddenly heard a loud scream of agony echoing through the gym. He turned to see Khamzat absolutely raging, punching the wall and looking around with pure fury. Meanwhile, Roman was walking around casually, almost proudly, as if he had just accomplished something significant. A few minutes later, Merab noticed Khamzat sitting with his knee wrapped and covered in ice. The reason became clear. Roman had caught Khamzat in a knee bar. Refusing to tap, Khamzat reacted angrily, and in the process, severely injured his knee. Merab explained that the intensity of Khamzat's reaction, combined with his refusal to submit, led to a knee injury that still affects him. Even now, Khamzat continues to wear a knee sleeve, a lasting reminder of that training session. Merab's account highlighted not only the physical toll of high-level MMA training, but also the fierce competitive mindset of Khamzat Chimaev. Even in a gym environment, the drive to push through pain and dominate sparring partners can sometimes backfire, leaving fighters with injuries that linger long after the session ends. This story also showcased Roman's skill and awareness, as he executed a perfect submission that proved effective even against one of the most aggressive rising stars in the sport. The incident serves as a cautionary tale about the intensity of MMA training, the importance of tapping at the right time, and how even elite athletes like Khamzat can face setbacks in pursuit of perfection. Fans now have a rare glimpse into the behind-the-scenes struggles and an intensity of fighters preparing for the highest level of competition. Moving on to another news. Kamaru Usman is making it very clear that his focus for 2026 is a blockbuster welterweight clash against Islam Makhachev. On the latest episode of the Pound for Pound podcast with Henry Cejudo, the Nigerian Nightmare laid out his vision for the year, calling the matchup the biggest fight the division can make right now. Kamaru is manifesting a massive year ahead, fully confident that both he and Islam want this super fight, and now it's up to the UFC to pull the trigger and make it official. At 38 years old, coming off a strong win over Joaquin Buckley, Kamaru sees himself as the proven name with the resume to back it up. A former champion with multiple title defenses at 170 pounds, he feels this fight is a blockbuster in the making. A pound-for-pound king facing the man who has dominated the UFC lightweight division for years. He acknowledged the rising talent in the division, mentioning fighters like Michael Morales and Carlos Prates, giving them respect for the work they've been putting in. Still, Kamaru doubled down that nothing matches the stakes, prestige, and draw of a showdown between him and Islam Makhachev in the new Paramount era. Kamaru emphasized that the responsibility now lies with the UFC to make this fight happen, insisting that right now, it's the biggest and most meaningful matchup for the division. He said he's excited for 2026 and everything the future holds, not just for himself, but for the sport and its fighters. With the new Paramount deals coming into effect, the stakes are even higher, as the streaming platform has recently increased subscription prices from $60 to $90 per year, highlighting the growing scale and visibility of UFC events. Meanwhile, Henry Cejudo touched on the welterweight landscape and specifically discussed the controversy surrounding Michael Morales' record update. Cejudo argued that Morales' earlier loss, which was later removed, should stand because clear footage shows him getting submitted. While respecting the young fighters making their mark, Cejudo echoed Kamaru's sentiment that the matchup fans want to see most remains Kamaru Usman versus Islam Makhachev. Kamaru closed the segment expressing his excitement for the fight and for the year ahead, saying, "2026, I'm manifesting a big year for me. I believe that's what Islam wants as well. If the company wants to make the biggest fight in the division, it's us. Let's do it. Let's go." His confidence and clarity made it clear that he's ready to chase the biggest challenge of his career, while the UFC has the chance to deliver one of the highest stakes fights in recent memory. That's it from MMA Pulse News. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for your daily dose of MMA news.